Why do dwarves and Durgar hate each other, and how did the world come to have so many different kinds of elves, and what lies at the heart of the Blood War? And yes, I'm just reading the back of this book out loud. Anyway, if you want to get to know the answer to some of these secrets and a lot more secrets, get your hands on the most wrongly titled book in the history of Dungeons and Dragons, Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. But before I do this, I just want to take the chance to tell you guys that if you want to get your hands on any Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition book of your choice, make sure to click the link somewhere here in this video. It will take you to my giveaway video that is running until the 24th of August, and I will be giving away one Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition book of your choice. It can be Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, it can be Vodo's Guide to Monsters, it can be just a monsters manual, or maybe you don't have a player's handbook or a Dungeon Master's Guide. Make sure to check it out and make sure to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of that amazing stuff. If you've been on my channel for a while now, you probably have noticed that my reviews for official Dungeons and Dragons books are a little harsher than on my other reviews because, well, it's official content and it just needs to be good. Although this is a very well written book and a very well designed module for your Dungeons and Dragons game, it is in no way, shape or form, in my opinion, a tome of foes. It is just wrongly titled because first of all, it cannot be called a tome. To my opinion, a tome is a big fat book. At least in fantasy settings, that's what I see when I think about a tome, and this book is only 256 pages thick, so I just wouldn't call it a tome. Then the title clearly implies that it is a tome, so a big fat book full of foes. And I'm here to tell you that only half of this book has foes, which are, by the way, very well designed. Just to put things into perspective for you, if you want to get your hands on a tome of foes or beasts or monsters, get yourself the Tome of Beasts from Kobold Press. Okay, it's not official content, but this thing is 500 pages thick. It has over 400 monsters, and it is just monsters, monsters, and monsters. And there's nothing else to this book. You just open it up, put the monsters against your players, and have a heck of a lot of fun. This is a tome. But enough about the title of this module. I actually like it a lot, and there's a lot in it that I will use in my campaigns against my players. So what do you actually get for your precious dollars when you buy Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes? Well, you get a very cool life's work of a famous wizard called Mordenkainen. If you don't know who that is, it was basically a crazy ass wizard who traveled a lot of planes and a lot of different places to see a lot of weird stuff, and he basically sums it up in this book. The first chapter is all about the Neverending Blood War, where forces of the Abyss and forces of the Nine Hells have been fighting it out throughout history against each other for more control over some of the planes of existence. The first part of this chapter talks about what it means to make a pact with a devil, which is always a great idea, and then it goes into some of the cults, some rules for cults that are dedicated to infernal beings. And if the sight of a tiefling didn't strike enough fear into people's hearts as it is, players now get the chance to play and experiment with a few new, slightly dark sub-races. There are some very cool tables to customize your demons and your devils, but this is one of the coolest things in this entire book, and that is a Boon System, where if your players do decide to worship some kind of demon, they get boons, they get some extra stuff to add to their character sheet, they get stronger, of course they have to sell their soul or whatever, but they get stronger, they get more powerful, and they get more evil. The next chapter is all about the elves, and although this is a nearly 60 pages thick part of the book, I am not going to go into too much detail here because it is what you expect. It goes into all the different kinds of elves, even the draw. There is information about their deities, their languages, their relationship with each other, and even the people who they enslaved. There is some great artwork in this chapter though, and if you want to read all about elves, I suggest you just buy this book, get a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, sit back, relax, and just read the chapter. Something I will mention though, there is 3 new sub-races for elves, the Eladrin, the Sea Elves, and the Shadar-kai. And for me, the Sea Elves look so cool that in the first time in 15 years of playing Dungeons and Dragons, I might be creating an elf as my next player character. The reason I never play an elf in Dungeons & Dragons because there is a little race in Dungeons & Dragons that's called the dwarves, and I absolutely love dwarves, and I absolutely love dwarven fighters or paladins or clerics or whatever. I just love dwarves. And yes, this book also has an entire chapter on those little friends of ours. And to give you an idea of how much they go into detail about the dwarves, look at this amazing piece of artwork. Might be one of the coolest drawings in any Dungeons & Dragons book ever, of a dwarven family that's just having fun at the fireplace with their dog or puppy or whatever it is, because it's supposed to be probably very small because it's a dwarf dog. It's a dog from dwarves. Whatever, it's a very cool piece of artwork, and the rest of this chapter doesn't really go into dwarf per se, but more into the other kinds of dwarves, which are the Duergar. Something worth mentioning is they also go more into shield dwarfs and gold dwarfs and all kinds of different dwarfs, but I feel a lot of that has been talked about already in the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. But whatever, it all sits in one very good place, an entire chapter about dwarfs, which is absolutely freaking amazing. And of course, the Duergar subrace now has an official place in an official Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition module. Chapter 4 again is all about a certain type of race in the world of Dungeons & Dragons, and this time they're talking about the Gith. To be more precise, they're talking about the great war that is going on between two different kinds of Gith subraces, and I've been trying to pronounce their names, but I'm absolutely failing at it, so I'm not even going to. And it basically comes down to that there is a evil counterpart to the Gith that believe that everything they conquer they can burn to the ground and build their own city from the ashes of wherever they visited. And then there is a good counterpart, or at least a lawful counterpart to the Gith, and they believe that they should live a little bit more in seclusion and they don't have the right to go around and kill everybody and claim their lands. Of course, both of these subraces are playable if you would like to play them as a player character. Chapter number 5 is all about gnomes and halflings, and I do not know why they are in the same chapter. Okay, they're both small and they're both sometimes a little annoying, but for me they are two completely different races and they shouldn't have been put in the same chapter of this book. And if you didn't know, the creators of Dungeons & Dragons have become motivational speakers, because there is a little piece of text in here that's completely amazing. It is all about the Thinker Gnome, which is an inventor, and it is their life's motto, and I will read it out loud. Their life's motto goes, "Fail often, fail happy." These inventors are delighted by every explosion, every melted mess, and every heap of smoking wreckage. Failure is part of the eventual solution and something to be celebrated. A truly epic failure might be a cause for a great celebration in the community. How cool is that? By the way, it is accompanied by a guy that almost blew his head off. And then, after a long read about a lot of different creatures that a lot of the times are not foes, we get to the good part, the part we can actually put against our players, and I'm of course talking about the bestiary, where they focus this time on all kinds of creatures that are living in all kinds of different planes of existence. I'm of course talking about demons and devils and other weird stuff. I sometimes hear people complain about that there is not enough bosses to put against your players above challenge rating 20. Well, think again. There's 8 demon lords in here, completely fleshed out, completely statted out for your players to take on. For example, they finally had the balls to stat out Demogorgon, one of my favorite demon lords, and I cannot wait for my players to reach level 20 and for them to be eaten or whatever by this guy. Or should I say guys? He has 2 heads. And the same goes for devils, because there's 6 guys ready to take the souls of your party. Most of them have wings. But of course there's also different kinds of creatures you'd expect from a bestiary. For example, there's elementals, different kinds of elves, Duergar, all kinds of creatures you'd expect from a bestiary, all kinds of creatures to put against your party, and you will not run out of creatures anytime soon. So that was it for my review of Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. I really like it. It is slightly wrongly titled, but it is a great buy, especially if you are a dungeon master. Because if you're a dungeon master that really wants to expand and really wants to get to know the creatures in the multiverse, make sure to get your hands on a copy of Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. If you are only a player and you never DM in your party, do not spend your money on it, because there is some stuff for players in here, but there's just not enough to make it your money's worth. But if you want to play one of these sub races in here and you're dungeon master has one of these copies, just borrow it for a few minutes, take over the background stuff of your sub-race, take over the traits of your sub-race, play it, but after that you don't really need this book anymore. So one of these per party is more than enough, but it is a great buy. So there's a lot of great content in here and it's very usable. So if you want to get your hands on a free copy of this book or any other book of your choice, or you want to see any of my other reviews on my channel, make sure to click one of these videos right here and it will magically teleport you to the right video. And if you want to stay updated on my reviews, make sure to hit the subscribe button below. Also, you can go over to my Patreon page where you can support me for as little as $1 a month and where you can even play with me as your Dungeon Master in our monthly Dungeons & Dragons online game, which we're having a lot of fun with. Make sure to check out my Patreon page and I hope your inspiration may guide you.